What is up, everybody? James here. This is going to be my official first public video. I'm going to post this one. Pretty excited about it. For people who are watching this for the first time, you'll probably not know what's going on, but I'm going to try and post more educational content. And this week just seems like a good week to start. I'll be focusing on just a few pairs this week. And so let's just go through the process like we do every Sunday. All right, so I've identified all the pairs that are presenting a potential fractal on the weekly. This is the beginning of the week. So these may not continue to be fractals, but right now they're potential fractals. So we have the potential fractal, the next candle. If this candle does not break the high of this candle, then this is marked as a fractal at the close, and then when this week opens. So effectively, we're looking to see if this fractal opportunity is in line with the trend, etc. So for this pair, I don't see much wrong with trying to take a sell this week. It appears to still be in a downtrend. It is a dollar pair, so you may want to be cautious. There's volatility, and just with the U.S. government restabilizing, etc. But it still has, on the weekly and daily, it has still maintained its general downtrend. On the daily here, you can see a couple weeks ago it did break over the previous weeks, so there's definitely some liquidity up here that got taken out of the picture. So the question is what are we going to do from here, and what will this candle end up looking like for the week? So I see two possible outcomes. One is that this candle has done its work in the past against this structure, if we look at the daily, and that the indication for a fractal high here may be false. That's one possible scenario. In that case, we might expect this candle to come down, not break this low, but come down into this area. And the reason I'm saying that is because there's a structure. If the wick of this candle does represent the completion of the work that needed to be done here, and this reaction and break of structure is valid, then the next natural course would be for a trend change. There'd be no need to come below here unless they just wanted to be mean and dip below for liquidity purposes. But logically, the next course of action would be to come down, rescue the money from this side, and then start the trend in the up direction. We don't have any indication of that other than this minor break on the daily, but that could just be a liquidity grab to carry contracts down. Long story short, I like the idea of a sell for the week. And the reason I say that is because I think that just based on the daily, and we can, this is something where you take these ideas and you go do some more independent analysis and make the determination for yourself. But so I'll just stick to the daily for now and try to keep this video as short as possible. But if we're looking at the daily, we should probably be looking somewhere in this area. This is the last down candle here with the up candle after it. You notice this up candle did come up to 103.45-ish and then retract. And then the next candle pushed up again. So if we were to look on a lower time frame, we'd see a push up, push down, push up, right? So the chances on a lower time frame of something being stuck in here that needs to be mitigated is probably pretty high. So I'm just going to roughly drop an area of interest line right there. And if we get into that, you should theoretically be looking for buys. If we drop into that area right here, you should be looking for buys. But to get there, we got to sell, right? In order for us to get down to that point, selling needs to occur. So for this week, I like where it's opening. I like that it is a bit sideways. It hasn't done much action yet. And I think the potential to sell for this week will present on lower time frames to get down into this area to buy. I don't know if it will buy. It may break this low and continue a downtrend, or do a liquidity grab and then move up again. But it does have qualities. It's with the trend. It has a target it needs to get to, and this is a high enough time frame that if you were to drop to lower time frames, you would be able to find yourself an entry, a sell entry that would probably have decent return. Maybe not the best trade return, but decent return. So um, that's just all I'm going to do on that one for now. Um, I am going to set myself an alert because I want to know if this candle, and we're at the very beginning of the week, right? So it's hard to say what this candle is going to end up looking like right now. It's easier on Monday afternoon, um, at the 4 hour candle close at the end of the day, like Monday at 4 Central, it begins to get more clear. But the fact that it is moving up right now either means it is done doing its work and will push up, or it is moving up to make its wick for the day, and then might see a small move down to this area. So this candle right here for the week may end up looking red. It may retract and end up looking like one of these candles. You can see each one of these is basically saying we tried to move up and then we moved down and then we found some area of support and then we tried to move up again and moved down and then came up and found some area of support. So I would expect this candle to move up a little bit and then down to this area and then come back off a little bit. So if you can find an entry here with a good stop loss, I would make that my target. Moving on. Let's clear old drawings here. AUDCHF has presented on the weekly a potential sell fractal, and it's up over, let's not, yeah, so this to me looks like it might just be a minor reaction to some structure in the past. The easiest way to make this decision is to get yourself a horizontal line, pin it to the high there, which is where the fractal is, right there, and then just go left until you intersect with something. Okay, so we've intersected with what I would consider a minor liquidity grab, right? So price dropped down for multiple weeks, found an area of support, pushed up, stopped out right here and dropped off again. So it would make sense that in this peak, there's contracts that are stuck. If you were to think about this as a bank, this downtrend and then this retracement of the downtrend provided you with an opportunity to short at a good price, which is what happened. So this may not be an extremely significant reaction. I would not bet on us reacting hard off of that point. The interesting thing is we're accumulating up against it. If you notice, these last 2 weeks, we've been accumulating up against that area. And this week, we've dropped down. So this has presented as a potential sell fractal. And it may remain a sell fractal just because this candle may not close above these. But I would venture to say that this is most likely going to come down to some point, to some last point of support, which would kind of be here. Just because it's in such a strong uptrend, and this is a reaction to me. This is just a minor reaction, and what's happening here, in my mind, and this is my opinion, Also, I guess I should say in the middle of this, and I should say up front instead. I'm not a financial advisor. This is not financial advice. Trade at your own risk. Use a demo account. I am not suggesting that you make any trades. I am just providing an analysis of what I think the market's doing based on fractals and market structure. So, okay, getting that out of the way, the multiple hits to this level indicate to me that there is the potential for money to be gathering at that point. Each time we hit this level, people go short. We hit this level again, people go short. We may come up here and drop away. And then the last place I see, or the nearest, I guess not necessarily last, but the nearest place I see that would give us some issue on a sell would be this candle here. So if we're wrong and this is some rescue move, meaning we're in an uptrend, and one of two things will happen from this point. Either, and okay, I'm not guaranteeing one of these two things will happen. In my mind, I see one of two things happening. I see either us coming just down to here and then moving up, because this minor area this is just a few wiki reactions, and there's money above here. So to come down to this point and then come off of it, I would see as a reasonable outcome. And the other thing would be that we just, sell, and it's such a strong uptrend. But if this is an extremely important level, we don't know. But if it is, and it's going to get defended, and we're not going to make the first suggested move, then the second most likely suggested move would be to break this candle, come up to it, come within the new structure, come up to a reasonable area that needs to have some work done, and then sell off. Okay, so there's two eventualities here. So I'm not going to be like placing a pending or anything, right? Because the pending idea, the idea that I currently have, would be against my current fractal for the week. We could just see this week just come down to this point to do that work for the week, and then the next week it starts moving up. That's a possibility. So there could be a sell opportunity on lower time frames just within this structure here. And you would just, if I was taking this trade, I would ensure that wherever my entry is, I have at least 2 to 1 by the time I get down to the middle of this candle. You want to be able to remain within structure and make your money. Because if you're wrong, then you're either going to second guess yourself or not make as much money, right? You only want to take opportunities that are valuable. So your risk, Anyway, so these are the two possible outcomes I see, and because this is a sell fractal, I'm going to be looking on lower time frames and for this retracement to occur, which it looks like it may be, right? It's beginning the week as a green candle, a nice solid green candle, pretty solid green candle. So one of two things here is going to happen. Either it's going to just shoot up from here, or it's going to come up and then drop and leave us a wick. And then the body of the candle would end up red. So finding the place to sell from is your goal. I can tell you, if you were to try to sell in here, I would have my stop loss above this point by a pip or two. And if you're on lower time frames, you may see an opportunity for a different stop loss, but I would definitely make this my main level of concern. EA, pretty solid structure here for a potential buy opportunity. Okay, so we've got our weekly fractal, and I'm not going to delete this drawing because I think it's valuable. So we had this stuff happen here in the past, where this box is located, this golden box is located, and And you can see there's pretty ridiculous price action right in here. We dropped well down into below this point, and then we had some crazy gap happen, and then we pushed hard off of it. Definitely would say that that's manipulation, that we pushed down into liquidity and then put in some big orders to buy up off, and it brought us up, right? And we don't have to follow it all the way, but it's good to know that's a pretty legitimate mitigation point right there. So let's just make ourselves a quick reference line, right? So I'm going to call, even though it's going to give us kind of a big range, like if I were to make an alert or something, that's my last down candle. That's where I would be interested because there's imbalance in here. This is a down candle, there's a gap. I think the potential for price to move down into this area and then back up is valid. Having said that, it invalidates the idea of a buy for the week, right? Because we don't want to be trying to play against the trend in the simplest way we could think of it. If you want to play it counter trend and you see that this fractal exists and that this green candle exists and that this appears to be a bit of accumulation, right? We've moved sideways for a couple weeks here. You can basically see it here. We engulfed last week to some degree. And you decide that you want to, so we'll use this blue line to represent the low of this fractal. So what you would do in this case is go back and look at the blue area. I'm using the weekly to get to the daily. It's so hard to scroll back. Okay, so we're going to do this. Okay, the low of that candle came down to this blue line. And what you should do is drop to lower time frames and make a determination if that was the last place it needed to be. If there's still a big old gap in here, I would call that risk. I wouldn't want to try to buy this in current time, right? Because the chances of it faking you out and then just dropping into this area where it needs to be potentially is very high. So you could attempt to play it counter trend. You could make the decision that these two bottoms are resistance and that you're going to buy from here. But what I see happening here is a bigger picture move. And I'm just going to draw it up as an example of what I think will happen in this scenario. So I see here that we've made some equal highs, pretty close equal lows. I mean, it's hard to distinguish a pip's difference between them. So there's definitely money up here that's been trailing the downtrend. As the downtrend's been happening, trailing stops are moving in, new people are entering the market. Their stops are definitely floating in this area. They're floating above this most recent little high point. They're floating potentially in this area, above this area. So what I see happening here is something along the lines of this. Take this liquidity, do the work we need to do, and then move on. That's what I see in my mind's eye, right? It makes sense that they would need, so if you need to get down here, you need contracts to get you there. So there's a contract pool right here. So if we move up into this pool, then we have people who are willing to take our contracts. So if we're attempting to sell, we have buyers, right? Buyers are on the other side. And then we sell to them and they buy because they think price is going to be moving up because of the structure, looks reasonable. And when they do that, we manipulate price down to where we need it to be, taking them out because they most likely put their stop losses in it's a general range of 10 to 20 pips. So if you were to just do a little quick measuring tool, so from this low, just the general masses are going to be having their stop losses in this area, and that's about 45 pips. right? So there's definitely going to be stop losses sitting below this point, and a pool of liquidity will build down here. And then we come down and we use this liquidity, which are people who are willing to sell to us at a loss or a win. Maybe they take their profit and they sell their contracts back, you know. But in any case, we have a pool of money here, and then we can move up from it. And so I do see this as a potential reversal pattern given the daily sideways structure, but it is not radical enough. There's not a big enough push, and it's presenting classic scenario of putting money where it needs it to be. It's putting money here and here, and it needs the money to be there so that it can push off from this point. So I would not on EA feel comfortable taking a buy for the week. In fact, I would look for it to be a sell. But because it's going to be a sell, I wouldn't participate in it at all. I just would, unless it just presents as a different type of analysis. If it presents as a different trading methodology, then I would take it, right? But based on fractals and based on the bias that the fractal defines for me, which is a buy, I don't think I should be taking it for the week. I don't think I should buy for the week. I think it has work to do down here, and it's very likely that within this week or the next, we end up down there, and that blows my trade, right? EN, I like EN. EN's got some pretty good structure going on here. EN as a euro pair, also just a little bit sideways. Let's trash whatever's on there. Lower time frame drawings and stuff. Who knows? So I do like it because it does appear to have made kind of the move it needs to make in order to do the work from back here. And we could just go all the way to here as that, because it could be this structure or this little structure back in here that it interacted with. It's in a strong downtrend, so there's a lot of liquidity above it. So that can fuel the fire. If it starts buying up and hitting all those liquidity pockets, that can fuel the fire. But I do see that it has, on the daily last week, looks like it broke structure pretty good. Didn't really break the trend though, right? Like this high here, in my opinion, it wasn't broken, and therefore this could be a mitigation from this area back here. And then the reaction to the mitigation, and then this point being the reaction to the contracts that were here. You can see that this is a pretty strong push down, followed by a reaction up, followed by a reaction down, mitigation, followed by a push up. So I like a buy. So what I would want to see, lower time frame analysis, but you can't expect too much, right? That's a whole lesson in and of itself. That gap that exists between the bottom of the current daily candle and the top high of that candle, I would say that would be the area I would be interested in taking a buy. And I am very conservative with my stops, so, and I haven't dropped down to lower time frames. This is all on the daily. I don't, if you decide to drop to the lower time frame and you see that there's a very clear mitigation or pattern or fractal or something you understand in this area, in these two candles here, then maybe that gives you the opportunity to lower this point. But at the very high time frame, I'm interested to know when this candle breaks this line, because if we retrace down into this, that's our buy opportunity for the week to push up. And if this trend is true and this is the turnaround, then we're right in the beginning of it, which is great. And the reason that this is different than EA in my eyes is because of this structure. The structure is clearly, you know, push down, big strong push up, drop down, interact with this area, do some wiggles here, and push up again. And wiggles is a technical term. Long story short is there's nothing below this point, at least on the weekly or daily, that I would be super concerned with. You've got maybe this gap down here, but it looks like it got filled. And then this down candle, followed by the up move, followed by a retracement that came back down to it. I would call that mitigated. So I would say that if we're interacting here, one of two things: either it's just going to completely disrespect it and fall through it, or it is a mitigation move, and this is the point that we should be looking for buy opportunities to carry on for potentially 1 to 2 weeks, right? So if we can get in it this week at a good price and a good stop, we may be able to collect value on it over a longer period of time. It does have the flat bottom issue that the other pair has, meaning these are pretty close to equal lows, which is concerning. There may be a liquidity pool being built here for some reason. We may drop down below and then come up. And if that were the case, because these two, let's get real close in on the weekly. If that were the case, it would make this fractal invalid pretty much, right? If it drops below this point, it invalidates that fractal. That fractal will go away. Right now it is true, but as soon as the logic sees that it has passed this line or this low, that triangle will disappear. But if you look at it, it looks like a sideways that isn't. This could be a mitigation because it didn't quite drop down all the way to the bottom, and this could be the push up. This little stopping point last week is sort of the natural stopping point to leave us guessing. Are we going to react from this point and then keep going down, or are we going to push up through this? Is this a change in structure? This is a calculated move to keep us guessing right here. So you've got people who are seeing a sell opportunity. You've got people who are seeing a buy opportunity, right? I would definitely give it a day to develop at least. You want at least you get that daily candle, and even like half of Monday's candle. Like check it about halfway through Monday's daily candle, and you got to understand that the candle opens and closes at different times depending on where you are, right? The close of a daily candle in the central time zone is at 4 p.m. So you come and you check it at 4 p.m. Central Time. That's when that candle will have been closed. So you divide that by 2, and you got to be checking it at 4 a.m., which is kind of absurd. So maybe you check it in the morning, like 8 a.m. That's another 4-hour increment. Great time to check it. See if it's done its work, and if it has, then jump on board. So I think that's it for the week. That's really all I've got. I'm going to, on my own time, dig in deeper, find potential mitigation points, etc., and do my SWOT analysis: the strengths, the weaknesses, the opportunities, and the threats of each trade, and then run through my checklist. And then if something matches and I'm comfortable with it, I'll enter the trade. And that might not necessarily be on the daily. That could be during New York session. Generally not below the 1-hour chart, but yeah. Anyway, I hope you find value in this, and I'll definitely be making more of these. So tune in and cash in. Maybe that's my new catchphrase. All right, take care.